All right, the question of agnosticism is it's a it only has two options because the existence of anything in the universe only has two options. So in terms of the question of agnosticism or atheism, there's only two options for each of those, and they're not mutually exclusive. Either you think a God is knowable or unknowable, or you believe in a God or you don't. And those are answering two different questions. In other words, agnosticism as a midpoint between atheism and theism is not a viable option. It is logically unsound as a position. And really, it's referring to atheism when you say you're agnostic, you're an atheist. This is simply because, for me, that the classical three laws of logic, and in particular the law of excluded middle with respect to the existence of any given thing, there's no third option for the existence of something. A great example is actually God Himself. As an example, either a God exists or it doesn't. There's no third option. What would that even look like? I can't even imagine. And that's what this has to do with because we're talking about a belief, which is also a thing. Either a belief in a God exists or it doesn't. What would the third option look like? You have to consider belief as an entity, as a thing, in as much as anything else in this universe. Um, According to the three laws of logic, that thing is what it is. It can't be what it is and what it isn't at the same time, and there's no third option. That's a law of excluded middle. And this applies to beliefs as well. And this logic is what makes agnosticism not what people think it is. Um, I mean, you could colloquially define it as such, and it might carry that meaning to other people, but logically, it doesn't make sense because there's no third option for the existence of any given thing, for the proposed existence of any given thing. Either a belief is formed in your head that a God exists, or you don't have that belief. You can also have the belief that no gods exist, but that's a different proposition. That's different. That's actually making a positive belief that no gods exist. Um, and I guess that would be strong atheism. But atheism is itself, if you actually look at the word atheism without theism, without God, without belief in God, um, is really the best descriptor of this reality that you just lack a belief. You don't possess that belief. There is no third option for the existence of something. And based on that, and this is the thing is that this is exactly what atheism or theism is addressing is whether you have that belief or not. Um, and those are the parameters that this question is addressing. So there's no third option. You don't get to create this another realm. Um, I mean, this is epistemology. This is logic. Like you can't really bend this. I understand that colloquial definitions can be whatever they want, and we do it all the time with words. But if you want to be precise and logical about things, and actually have it make logical sense, then you need to stick to definitions in a way that their definitions and their meanings can be demonstrated. And as far as agnosticism being a third option for something's existence, that is just logically invalid. It's impossible, because of the law of excluded middle, as far as I'm concerned. Um, so if you're an agnostic, most likely, or anyone, if you do not possess a belief in your brain, a priori, you can know this, that that I believe in God, or that a God exists, then you are an atheist. If you do not possess belief that God is real, then you're an atheist. And to me, I'm starting to realize that I guess the difference between agnosticism and atheism, or those two concepts of Gnostos and Theos, is really probably an a priori, a posteriori distinction. Because atheism and theism addresses a belief that exists in your brain, not in the universe, not in the actual God. It's just what you believe in your head. It's what you accept to be true. Um, Gnosticism address whether you think it's possible to know whether a God actually exists, a posteriori. And that's a huge distinction. Because anyone can ask themselves whether they have a belief or not. Just ask themselves, what comes to mind when you say, do I believe in a God? Um, and if you don't possess a belief that God exists, then you lack that belief. Therefore, by definition, you are an atheist. When you say you're an agnostic, you're saying, I don't think it's really knowable. Well, that's asking a different question, different concept, and as such, these two terms are not mutually exclusive. Hence why you can combine the two and say that for me personally, for example, I'm an agnostic atheist, or I am a Gnostic atheist, or a Gnostic theist, or an agnostic theist. I mean, to me, the only reasonable position to have would be an agnostic anything, because there'd be no way to ascertain a knowledge that a being actually exists or not. And being an agnostic atheist is not being an agnostic, and then it's not being weak. I know whether I possess that belief, whether a God exists or not. I know that. I know that I do not possess that belief. As to whether I think it's knowable, as to whether God actually exists, a posteriori, I don't think that's possible to know. So I'm an agnostic atheist. And that's it. It's pretty simple. It just has to do with the law of excluded middle and the fact that something existing or not existing has only two options. And I just said that. That was redundant. Something can either exist or not exist. That's it. It can't half exist. If it half exists, then that's something else that's existing. It's a half existing whatever that is that's now existing. You understand? It's I don't know. It's really basic logic. It's really simple. And I understand why people want to create a third category, but it's just not logically sound in terms of addressing the question of whether you believe or not, because of the law of excluded middle and the law of identity, the classical law of logic made by Aristotle like 2,000 years ago.